How do you do, everyone? The slack time. This is the time when it's almost like being a radar operator in Alaska. Overcast, about an hour until I close the gate. Hasn't been no one here for about half an hour. Did our fairy house workshop last night. Prepared for tomorrow's kids program, learning stories. Putting together the craftiness. We're going to do dream catchers. And by the way, if you do dream catcher with groups of little kids, you know there's a lot of kids that can't even tie shoelaces. And so you give them the dream catcher frame, a length of artificial sinew or whatever you're going to use, intestines, dried sheep intestines. And it's challenging for them. So what I've found is you can take your groups of kinder and break them into twos. Not 5-year-old to 5-year-old, but 5-year-old with 10-year-old. Getting an average of an 8-year-old. And then you give them one dream catcher frame per two kids. So they're helping each other. And you start out, I actually have a giant dream catcher and I've got rope so you can see the tricky weave, the tricky pattern you do so they can really visually see it. You give them a short section to practice on, both of them practicing a little bit with a short section of dream catcher string material. And then once they master that, go on to the longer one. It helps. It's a complicated program, but whatever. I'm kind of devoid of humanity down here. And so I was thinking, I grabbed the mandolin, and just kind of pick around. And this is for anyone that's listening, but I was really kind of gearing this towards Roberto. Maybe you can develop it into something. He's a much better musician than I am on anything with strings. Maybe not the violin, but this is kind of cool. That sounded kind of cool. Anywhere, Roberto, that's the mystery music challenge to you. Come up with something cool and using your tricky methods of computer superiority that only a Vulcan possesses. How many different instruments can you come up with to turn that rough being of musicality into some kind of coherent form? Well, I'm going to continue basically doing nothing except waiting, which is good. Reading a book, playing the mandolin, smelling the sweetgrass drying over there. It's kind of funny. A person is given a certain number of words a day, and I've about reached my limit. If you've dealt with the public, you know what I mean, Jelly Bean. Especially when you're saying the same thing over and over and over again all day. It gets somewhat difficult, but I enjoy it because I get to mess around with people a little bit. Generally, people have a pretty good sense of humor, so I can goof around as well as getting the message across. That is it. John signing off with the Washbourne. I really need to play this more. Beautiful instrument. I was telling my wife, it's funny, because people come in here and it's like, they see on the surface, this is a beautiful place, and I'm lucky to be here. But there's things behind the scenes, the maintenance and hours and such. What would be the job where you can get away with saying, I envy you, this is the perfect job? And I brought up race car driver. And my wife was, no, because you're sitting in a car that's 140 degrees for 5 straight hours. Okay, that's a tough job. Plus you crash into things and get killed. What about a fly fishing guide? Now, she said that there's going to be drawbacks with that, but I don't see any drawbacks with being a fly fishing guide. What about a jet fighter pilot? Yes, that is some seriously hard work. Those people are dedicated to be able to master those avionics and fear. How cool would that be, being strapped in the front of an airplane like in this bubble, being able to do all that neat stuff. So I can say that the next fly fishing guide that comes in here and jet fighter pilot, I can say without feeling like a goofball, wow, that is so great. You are so lucky. I'm trying to think of another job. A whitewater rafting guide. That would be cool. I actually have to say that when I was a climber for the arborist, it was gut-wrenching work at times. And there were days when it was so hot and muggy that the saws would vapor lock. That's hard. But I really enjoyed that. So being a former one, I can say to a climber, a technical tree person, that works for a good tree service, you are so lucky. That is a great job. It was like a puzzle. Puzzle mixed with fear. What else? I don't know. I bet you the people that do that crazy stuff, on motocross bikes, Red Bulling and stuff like that, really love what they're doing. I mean, the drawback is they cripple themselves and have to lay up in the hospital for months on end, and then they get back on and maybe make those jumps. I can envy them. That's pretty cool. An artist would be good. You get to sleep until 2, although physically I am unable to sleep until 2. I don't know. There has to be jobs that are just so great, where the drawbacks are so few, that the rewards far outweigh them. So you can be openly envious of them. Maybe people that are professional sailboat racers. Professional boat racers. I keep going to that way, these excitement sports. Because yes, managing a nature preserve is an excitement sport. An entomologist, maybe? Environmental geologist? I don't know. Astronaut? No way. That would just be scarier than taking off in a 737. I don't really care for that. That's why I did the ground sports, artillery, tanks, stuff like that. Oh, I rambled enough. I better go off and move, or I'm going to fall asleep. I'm going to fall asleep here. It's so nice.